Welcome to Inner Light, where we uncover the strength that rises from our darkest moments. Today, we are joined by Tracy Brinkmann, host of the Dark Horse Entrepreneur and Your Success DNA, a man whose story is a powerful testament to resilience. From surviving addiction and heartbreak to the unimaginable loss of his daughter, Tracy turned pain into purpose, using his voice to remind others that every fall can lead to flight. Welcome to the show, Tracy. It's such an honor to have you.
It's my honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
Mhm. So, Tracy, your journey begins in the trenches loss, addiction, and grief. So, what was the moment that sparked your decision to get back up instead of staying down?
Well, that's the choice we all have to make ourselves. I think for me, that choice became a whole lot easier because when I fell, I let myself fall for the longest time when we talk about addiction. And, I went into that pit for a couple of years, almost 3 years, to the point where the police literally kicked open the door to my condominium. Luckily, I wasn't there when they arrived, but it was just like you see on TV where they, toss the furniture upside down and they dump everything out on the floors, and they didn't find what they were looking for. But when I was walking back from the police station, a voice in my head was saying, family first, family first, family first, and that voice was my father's. I grew up listening to my father, preach family first, and he lived by that edict as well. So it was really his voice in my head, and the fact that I had a 3-month-old daughter at that point. So it was no longer my life that I was, risking. It was risking hers as well. So when I finally got back to the house, I called my folks up and asked for help. I said, "I need some help. I need to get myself clean," and the whole 9 yards, and thank the Lord and whoever you believe in, for them being my amazing parents. Them and, my brother from another mother helped me get back up on my feet, physically as well as mentally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, how did you begin to rebuild trust in life after so much pain?
Well, I started small. I mean, at that point, before I dove into the addiction, I had come out of the military. Served for 6 years. I'd started my own business, and obviously, that business went by the wayside when the addiction took over. And rather than step right back out and start rebuilding a business, I started low on the totem pole. I started, working for temporary agencies. I did warehouse work, whatever little jobs I could land just to build up my confidence once again and build up that mental ability to say, okay, I could do this. And after I was about a year and a half of, doing odd jobs and stepping out and realizing, okay, I can do this. I started reaching out to the corporate arena and finally landed a role with Coca-Cola that ended up being a 12-year run in my corporate career, and started climbing the corporate ladders from that. And but it was that struggle of, you know, you you're smart, you're capable, but you have to prove it to yourself once again after make a faux pas like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that willingness to rise when everything inside you says don't. That's where real courage lives.
I totally agree. I think one of the things that makes mustering up that courage a little easier is, when you look into the big green eyes of the little girl who was, you're her father. In my case, if you have a child, that's your responsibility, ladies and gentlemen, and all else should, sit by the wayside. I know before she was around, I was going through what I called my selfish part of life, where it was all about me, 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 me. Have fun, party, 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 have a good time. And, obviously that didn't lead to great places, but her entering my life, I've told her a number of times, she probably saved my life. So having some reason to get up, dust yourself off, wipe off the caca, and start, rebuilding yourself is going to be key because if you can't find something within yourself or within your sphere of influence that you feel is worthy of you making that next step towards good, then that should be your first step. If you don't know what it is you're working towards, that's the first step you need to take is to find something inside of yourself or inside of your sphere of influence that says, I'm worthy. I not just can do this, but I need to do it. And for me, my daughter was that reason.
That's beautiful. And losing a child is a pain beyond words. So, how do you navigate through that grief and still find meaning again?
That, to your point, is a fate worse than death. I mean, it's a curse I would not wish upon my worst enemy, and I've had a number of them where I don't like very much, but I would never wish it on them. That's really a tough road to hoe, and it's a tough answer for anyone. It's so unique to the person and their experience. For me, because the daughter that passed away was my second daughter, I still had my first that I had to be there for, so that helped. And the fact that I had overcome the addiction had built inside of me a confidence and a resilience to know I can do this. It's not gonna be fun, it's not gonna be easy, and what I ended up doing as a result is when Krista passed away, so that I didn't fall back into the selfish habits and, possibly back into addiction, is, I threw myself into personal development, and this would have been back in the '90s when the big names like Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar and Tony Robbins were doing those huge arena tours around the country here in the United States as well as around the world. And because I lived in Atlanta where Coca-Cola headquarters was at, I went to every single one of those that came to town and even traveled to a neighboring town to see them a couple of times. And when I was able to, I would go and, do the behind the scenes tours and do the meet and greets to get that one-on-one time with some of these big names and some lesser known names as well. And it wasn't just the learning because, we can all grab a book or watch a video or, go on YouTube and learn all kinds of things. You have to action these new learnings, and I was brave enough to do that, and I started seeing some amazing things happening in my life. I got 5 promotions in 3 years at Coca-Cola, and which was unheard of. People started coming to me and saying, "How are you doing this?" They thought maybe I knew somebody inside the higher ranks of the organization, and I just told them I was, acting on what I was learning, and they asked me to coach them, and one of the greatest joys for me, and I know it doesn't apply to everybody, is to help someone else overcome something, whether it's, a physical challenge, a mental challenge, a work challenge. And so coaching others based off the learnings I had been going through also inspired me to level up again. And it became this self-fulfilling prophecy that led to some amazing paths.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So, did your healing come gradually or was there a defining breakthrough?
It's kind of a mix of things. Being being your standard guy that was born in the '60s, I did a lot of emotional compression. In other words, I pushed things down inside for a while. And after Krista passed away, like I said, I threw myself into personal development. I threw myself into work to help hide, to help, kind of like mask some of the pain what was going on. And it hit me one day, and I was sitting at home and I was watching a movie. I can't remember the name of the movie, but a quick premise of the movie is a father was holding a number of people hostage in an emergency room at a hospital. And as the story went along, you ended up finding out about halfway to three quarters of the way into the movie that the the child that his son needed an organ transplant and he had been waiting and waiting on the organ donor list and yada, 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 and getting all these excuses, getting the runaround. And he was going to shoot himself and have the doctor who was there at that hospital take his organs and give them to his son. And my daughter had waited, almost 18 months on the organ donor list, and we got lots of the runaround stuff and all that stuff. So the moment I realized why he was holding these people hostage in this movie in that ER room, it all just came rushing out. I started crying like a baby. I had to pause the movie. I couldn't even pay attention. It was one of those crying so hard that you're brought to your knees kind of moments. And I realized I had been holding it all in. And so many times we well, me as a man had it was such a habit for me to push those kind of things down in a way and just, continue to focus on getting things done that it was almost a natural reaction. And when that boiled up and just rolled out of me, I started realizing, oh, damn, I need to start dealing with my inner emotions as well. So I started, tapping into those and starting, you know, peeling back some of the pieces of my life that I had gone through earlier, dark or not dark, and started feeling them, letting them bubble to the top and addressing them if they needed to be addressed. And one of the greatest things I learned as a result of doing that, and I say that with ease, it wasn't easy to go through. And I was lucky enough to have some amazing people in my life to help me go through that. But one of the greatest things I can tell anyone out there is that when you do that, when you look back into your darkness, your abyss, your bad moments in life, whatever you want to call it, you're going to find a lesson that is meant for you to walk away with. I'm not saying the lesson is going to be joyful. I'm saying the lesson is something you need to learn. And it's my personal belief that life, Allah, Buddha, God, Mother Nature, the universe, whoever you believe in, is going to keep putting situations in front of you until you learn that lesson. So if you can take a moment and look back into your abyss, into your darkness, and learn that lesson amongst all the pain, then you don't have to relearn it again. You're like, "Oh, I get it." And now you can it's almost like you level up your emotional wherewithal, your emotional armor, and like, I can take on even more now, and the world offers you a whole new set of doors to walk through, and it's really super cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And your story shows that healing doesn't erase pain, it transforms how we carry it.
I totally agree. It does 100% transform it. It's it doesn't erase it, but yet it does at the same time. How do I explain that? In other words, for me, after that moment with the movie, I was able to deal with that pain in such a way that it flipped it into joy. And what I mean by that is I don't sit back nowadays and after that, shortly after that, there was still a little bit going on, but nowadays I can look back at the short period of time that Krista was with me and feel nothing but joy. I can even remember the moment when, we had to make the decision to pull her off the machines that were keeping her alive and wrap her up in the blanket that grandma had knitted for her, well, crocheted for her, and rock her to sleep one last time. And yes, it's still sad, but it doesn't bring me to a painful memory. It's a I miss you memory kind of thing. But at the same time, it also gives me the ability to look around and see other folks' pain and realize, what they're going through. I can be empathetic and feel it so that if they want my help, I'm able to help them, whether they're close friends or potential clients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. And also, you often speak about mental resilience. What does it actually take to develop that inner muscle when life keeps knocking us down?
It's like anything else really. It's like exercise. You have to start with a light weight. So many people they wanna, "Oh, okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna dive right into the deep end, and often they drowned in it because, the mental waters are a lot different than diving into a physical pool or ocean or whatever. But really, if you can break it down and say, "You know what? I'm not gonna deal with the whole loss. I'm gonna deal with just missing her. Okay, I'm gonna deal with that first." And you just kind of remember the joyful moments. Just take a minute or 2 every day for a few days, and then the next step would be, "Okay, now I'm gonna take them time to actually remember the funeral, right? Where the pain was happening. Don't spend a lot of time on it, just a few minutes. And what you'll find is as you start going through these moments, you start finding the joy. And if I think back to the day that Krista passed away, I yes, I still remember the pain, but it's not again, it's not like this something sticking me in the heart. I remember going to a theater because one of my escapes is movies, and when she passed away, mom was a wreck, and I was like, "Well, let's just get her mind away." And there was a theater like a block away, and we walked it was like one of those little cafe theaters, an old theater that had been converted to, show newer movies, and they had a little dining probably had 8, 9, 10 tables. So we went in there and we watched Speed, right? The Sandra Bullock movie had just come out, and we got to escape away for, 90 minutes, and when we came back out, it was like, "Okay, now, here are the 4 or 5 things we need to do immediately, and then here are, like, the next 4 or 5 things we need to do next as a result of her departing." And it was just one of those, "Okay, I need to step away from the pain and totally decompress, and then I can come back and here are the things I have to do. Here are the things I need to do next," kind of thing. So it's the same kind of process um, in dealing for me in dealing with those things now is I can start seeing the joys. Like I can remember the lady at that theater that served us our food, our snacks, and she was trying to be all joyful and playful, and I had to tell her, "Oh, your mom's not feeling too hot today." She's, "Oh, yes, I remember her smile on her face, and it's in that looking back in that new fashion that allows me to see that smile. Someone, total stranger to me that was just trying to bring a little joy into my life, had no idea what we were going through. I could look back and say, "Oh, she shouldn't be doing that kind of thing because couldn't she see we were in pain?" Well, that would be the pain speaking. When if I put the pain, just kind of hold the pain and on pause for a moment and look around, I can see the joy and how that pain affected it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. Like, but how can people begin building that resilience before crisis hit?
Well, it's just in dealing with everything you have going on in life. Um, so there's always going to be sadness, but it's all in how you deal with the sadness. And for me, one of the greatest tools for that is building your inner confidence. Knowing who you are. I think one of the reasons so many people can't, and it was me included, can't deal with whatever's going on in their space is because the reason they even got there in the first place is because they weren't being true to who they are, right? If I go back to, the addiction, I wasn't being true to who I was. I was being selfish. It was all about me, 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 right? That's not who I am. And so once I stepped out of that and dealt with the fact that I wasn't being true to who I am, well, then I started moving forward at a better level. And now I'm able to look around and say, today I live life with the attitude that you don't have to like me. You don't even have to say hi to me because this is who I am. And I don't need you to validate me as a person. I'm pretty cool with that. I have an amazing woman that that we get along great. So the rest of the world's okay. And I find that when I'm being me, when the world throws me a curveball, I'm able to catch it a whole lot easier. But if I'm being fake, because I'm trying to impress someone and the world throws me a curveball, I'm wasting so much energy trying to impress somebody over here on the side that that curveball hits me in the head. And, I'm being metaphorical, of course, but it, it's probably the best way I can explain it. Because when you are owning who you are and life comes at you and says, hey, you need to do this, you're like, yeah, I can do that, but I'm going to do it my way, which gives it a whole new light. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's such an empowering perspective. Resilience as preparation, not just a reaction.
100%. And usually when, again, I come back to if you're all about being yourself in as much as you're able to, I don't think anyone can ever be 100% themselves. I think they'll probably tap out at about 95% because they're sometimes being yourself in certain situations is a little too much. But hey, if you can, more power to you. But but at the same time, it prepares you for what life can throw at you, and it gives you this inner peace and confidence that when it happens, and it's going to happen, right? Something's gonna happen in your life that you weren't expecting. When it happens, you're able to lean into that confidence and go, "Okay, I can deal with this. It's okay. It's gonna be alright through it all." And you're able to at least take the next step. You may not know what the 3 steps ahead are, but you can take the next step and then clear your head and then see the next step and then take that one after another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So, what a moving and powerful conversation with Tracy Brickman. This story reminds us that pain doesn't end our story, it refines it. If today's talk touched you, take a breath, forgive yourself for falling, and rise again with renewed strength. The light you seek is already within, it's just waiting for you to believe.